Hey, this is Dr. Paul, and welcome to Bridges Live. This is always a pre-recording, and I'm here with two wonderful, lovely ladies that you'll be meeting. But one of the things I want to do with Bridges Live today is always to get you from here to there. If we are unable to understand our actions, then how can we put it into an action? If we can't understand our process or our passion, then we will always stay lost. And right now, I know we have communities across the country that are being lost. And that's why we develop foundations. So let's first introduce ourselves. Miss Jennifer, you can introduce the great woman to your left, but then you can start off first. So Miss Jennifer?
Absolutely. So thank you for having us today. My name is Jennifer Walker. I am the CEO of the Well Foundation of Maryland, a nonprofit that we founded in October of 2018, which we'll talk about a little more. And I am a nurse by trade, nurse practitioner. And
Not just a nurse.
Not just a nurse.
Because you've done other things.
A nurse practitioner. Hospice is in primary care currently is what I've done. I also have a background in public health, so behavioral health and health sciences. I've done research at Hopkins for several years. So I am a native of Baltimore. I love my city. And that's one reason why my family and I came together to see what we could do for Baltimore, and then it branched even to the world.
You know, most people are going to look at this, and they know it's a podcast, they know it's going to be on radio, but I'm looking at you. You look awful young to have done so much. You started when you were 3 months old. I mean, this is a crib born. And I know this is your mother sitting next to you, so did she just put you out there like, you will do this? And so how did this, because it's, you know what it is? I know there's a calling that we have, and we have to hear what's the gift that's given to us as glory, right? You must have heard it at such a young age.
So if you ask my family, they will tell you I always love talking to the neighbors, especially the older people in the neighborhood, and just finding out about people's lives and what they do and what's important to them. And I think over the years that just grew to me speaking to people in my neighborhood in general. So one thing that I can kind of remember, the push, kind of that feeling to help. We lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of prostitution and a lot of drug addiction. And so I just remember sometimes seeing people walk in the streets and just looking hopeless, and I would just speak to them, just generally asking them how their day was, or if they had a need that maybe I could help them with, or even if I could pray with them. So I realized they're not outsiders. They were part of my community.
Is Christ a large part of who you are?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if someone says, I don't have prayer or God in my life, could they still have that thing push them, you think?
The drive to do? I think it's in all of us. I
agree. That's why I asked.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I think that God, when He created us, all put what I like to say the God spot in us.
That's right.
So it's that place that we should connect to Him, and there's also that place that we connect to each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are tons of people out there who are non-Christians who are doing amazing work, mm-hmm. and that's, you know, we want to pair with those people as well, because that's how we learn from each other, from the individual gifts that we're all given. And so we can talk a little bit about that in a second. I want to introduce my mother. This is Denise Walker.
Hi, everyone.
She is the secretary for our organization, but she's an amazing administrative assistant. She does everything from keeping us all in line to making sure our tax forms are okay. And so I'm going to let her just say a little bit more.
But before we get to Miss Denise, I want to ask Miss Denise, and I want to say this publicly. You have done an amazing job with your daughters. It's a gift, it's God's gift, it's great, but you and your husband have done such amazing work. And I just want to say publicly, thank you. Thank you. Because without you, we would not have the gift of them.
Yeah. Well, we thank God for them. They've been a blessing to me, especially in my old age. But they have been a blessing. And I've always been an advocate for education, so I push them. If you bring me A's home once, then you have to bring me A's home all the time. But also we were there. So whatever they needed, whatever choices or things they decided to do.
So you're saying the strength of the two-family household really helped a lot?
It really did.
The two-parent households.
The two-parent household helped a lot, but even in single-parent households, if you have a drive, and me as a parent in the era I grew up in, you always wanted better for your kids.
Yeah.
So that's the era I grew up in, to make sure that my kids had better than I did, and they had more opportunities. And as in the years that they came up in and everything, there were more opportunities. Opportunities were on the rise for us as a people, and doors were open and places open that they could go to, where maybe I couldn't, or they learned some stuff that in my wildest dreams I never thought that I would have a phone and then we could do everything on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really
it's progress.
It's progress.
And we have an extensive family network, so we definitely have that. That maternal grandmother and paternal grandmother that are present, and I've been grateful to have them up until this point in my life. So we have. It's really a community feel. You knew that if you got in trouble with one person, you got in trouble with everyone. But they all help to raise you as well.
Well, so that goes back to the old phrase that it takes a village to raise a child, right? And so, Miss Denise, the foundation started long ago. This had to have been an exception between you and your husband saying, we can do something or we will do something. What was that phrase?
The phrase was, we want to do.
There it is.
Okay.
Wow.
We want to do. We weren't forced to. We weren't asked to. We prayed, and because we had a passion, we saw a need, and we wanted to. So we got together, we prayed, we got together with friends and invited, some church members that we, other people who had other businesses that were friends, and people we work with, and just got it together.
At the time you saw your community, was it breaking up or was broken?
The community that we lived in at that time was broken.
It was just broken.
It was just broken.
Not much different than now.
No. Oh, well, it has deteriorated even more, if that was even possible. But
because we still go to that community.
And things have, as you said earlier, that needle has not moved. It's still there in the red.
It's in the red economically, spiritually. It's so broken spiritually. It's broken. And it's broken besides just financial, education-wise, it's broken. Yes. And we talked off air about the schools that are closing in Baltimore. And just recently about the water situation, that the community didn't have 2 weeks without water.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know from an educated vision, looking out, this is done purposely.
Yes.
So let me ask you, because that hurts, it makes me sad, but I'm not going to ask you why you think it's done purposely. But how do you know it's done purposely?
Well, being raised in, like I said, born and raised in Baltimore, I've seen the drastic changes. But also, a couple of things. The downtown area is at the water, okay? Yeah. It has to start coming back up towards in town, the communities that are there that are broken in. And so people are being pushed. And you can see the progress. You can see it coming. And people are being pushed out of communities. People are being pushed, like at Pole House where the water situation is. That land has been brought because they need to expand. Mm-hmm. So if we gently push you out, slowly but surely, we're not going to fix anything. We're not going to do this. So you will move.
You have to move.
You have to move.
So I never want to talk against naysayers and you're just complaining, you're just whining. What is it that someone could understand that this is just happening and we as humans need to do better?
Well, I think again, not just standing there watching it happen.
Right.
Do something. You have the power to do. You have a voice, and a lot of times we don't use our voices. And then on the other hand, are people when we have these when the city has meetings or open to the public meetings,
they're not there.
We don't attend.
We don't attend.
We don't attend. And when schools make changes in their
again, we're not there being representative.
No, but we complain. But when the opportunity arises for us to go to voice our opinions and our concerns, we don't comply.
And we know black-owned businesses are not doing well. The dollar doesn't stay in the community. It does not prosper. So there's a lot of other issues that people can really hone in on to make this a better thing. Yes. And there goes the foundation.
Yes.
So let's get back to that foundation. Tell us what the foundation is, Ms. Jennifer.
Sure. So the Well Foundation, which was, I guess, refounded October of 2018, we focus on helping vulnerable populations in the areas of education, economic development, and human resources.
You know, I don't want to sound like a child, but what's vulnerable population? Is that like a broken kitten? Is that, people with one toe? I mean,
so when we talk about,
I'm pretty vulnerable myself. People think I'm very tall and big, but, I'm pretty humble.
So when we're talking about vulnerable populations, we're talking about those, in a short phrase, those that society has forgotten about. We're talking about our disenfranchised. We're talking about our minority populations. We're talking about the populations that are not receiving the services that they need, even though those services might even be available, but they are not targeted, or they don't have the means to access those services. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going to the people who really need us most because they've been forgotten.
Well, Mom Denise just said the same thing. I have a phone that can do everything. So how is it possible? Because I know, and I'm asking this more of as a question, because I know people think they have access to Facebook, but they don't have access to services. She's like, it's mind-boggling.
So, well, there are a couple of things. I think that we all assume that everyone has the most high-tech phone. There are still some people out here who have phones where you have to, to get to see, you have to press 3 times just to get to see. And they don't have the latest access of the internet. Yeah. A lot of our libraries do have computers, but you have, 30 minutes, 15 minutes to be on the computer. So the access that a lot of us enjoy, are able to enjoy on our phones or in our homes, everyone doesn't have the ability to do that. And
here's what I know what's being missed. We have our elderlies are being missed.
Yes.
We have the people who have a hard time learning being missed. Absolutely. And so you're like, well, who are those people? There's tons of people out there who are afraid to admit that they don't read very well, or don't do math very well, or don't do a lot of things school-wise, so they act up, and then they have a school situation. So out of the school situation, with the few high schools left in Baltimore, they're being kicked out of those. Right. So here now it becomes cyclical. Now it keeps going over and over and over again, and that's what the foundation's reaching out to.
Absolutely. So part of the foundation's goal is to open Reach and Teach centers. So in these centers, because most of the rec centers in Baltimore City have been closed since the early 2011, the early 2000s.
Again, done on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Done on purpose. And we've seen a rise in crime since then, of course. So part of our goal is just to reopen some of these rec centers in our city to provide a safe place for the community. So offering life skills training, offering more hands-on activities for our youth so that they're not out on the corner. So making sure that we bring that sense of community back. We were just discussing on the way here, when you know your neighbor, you're less likely to fight or shoot them.
Absolutely.
When you grow up with someone...
I've never shot a neighbor.
No. When you grow up and you're playing basketball, this person is now your friend. They're not your foe. And so bringing back that sense of community that I think the both of us have experienced in Baltimore, where we knew people in our community. We felt like people in our community cared about us, and so that helped drive us to have a sense of purpose even. But we don't see that happening with a lot of our communities currently, so we want to bring that back to Baltimore.
So what's the first step? And I like to ask 2 questions. When I'm always, and thank you so much for, first of all, foundation, and can we help you? How can we as a people help you as a foundation? Is it just get the work done, like your mother said? She's like, we have an opportunity to do something. You just got to do something.
So there are a lot of ways people can help. The first thing I would always say is, I'm a big person of prayer, is pray for us. We're doing a great work, and I feel like sometimes it feels insurmountable. And so just having people that, even if they can't physically do something, they can spiritually do something. The second thing is, do what you can. So whether it's donating, we have a Facebook page, and from time to time we'll put needs there. So even if it's donating supplies, if we're doing a back to school drive starting soon. So even if it's donating supplies, or once we open the rec centers, donating your time, whether you have a specific craft, or even if you could just come and maybe sit with people who are lonely. You know, we have some people that live by themselves that just want conversation. So there are so many things that people can do, and it's around all of us. It's just opening our eyes and reaching out to do those things.
You know, your mother, Miss Denise, had said something, and I think it's very important. I think we're broken spiritually. I think we're not just broken for our connection with God, but we're broken with our connection with ourselves. And I don't know how we can connect with God if we don't connect with ourselves, because then things will get missed, and then who knows what words you're really hearing. You know what I mean? You could be hearing the words that come from the goat, you know?
Well, I mean, even a comment on that, I think once we have our connection to God personally, then He helps us connect
with ourselves and each other.
And each other. So, because it's all about building relationships. And you start with your relationship with God, and then as far as I'm concerned, it gets better, you know, from then on. So I'm able to connect with her. I'm able to connect with you on, you know, spiritually. And I think from there it just gets better. Again, you have that camaraderie, that thing we share.
You know, as a foundation, as nonprofit, and we've talked about this before when we met, there are other nonprofits out there. There are other storefronts out there. There are other people who are doing. But we're not playing the same game. We're missing the ball. I can throw all these metaphoric phrases out there. How can we fix that? Do you have an idea about that?
So one thing that I spoke to our board about was, especially when we opened the Reach and Teach centers, was housing other nonprofits. So having a space that people can come to, and even if it's literally holding a meeting or just having a physical space, because I think there are so many nonprofits, even us at the moment, without a physical space, and a lot of people don't know about you sometimes when you don't have a physical space. So having almost like, I like, in my mind, I keep thinking about this place like a warehouse where nonprofits can come and people in the community can come to as well, and they know, okay, I can come here and access these services from this group and these services from this other group, and it's not spread out. So just having this place where people can come and they know what services they're going to get. I think that's part of the problem, is so many nonprofits, we all are overlapping, we don't know each other, so we need a one-stop shop so people know who we are, what we're doing, and then we can work together, because that's really the goal here. Is a lot of us are trying to serve the same people, and if we work together, there's more strength in that.
Absolutely. Now we just got to get the other nonprofits to come or to be on board, but you would hope that just because they started one, you would think they're caring for others. And it's sad to say that, without pointing fingers at and calling people names, there's some people out there with nonprofits just out there to try to make a profit.
Absolutely.
And they're out there misaligning themselves and misusing people for the sake of good.
And I think that's why people in communities are a little leery sometimes when you're coming around and we're a nonprofit, we want to do this for you, because they've heard this spiel so many times.
Right.
But when people see you doing, and then when people see you being consistent, when people see you there on the holidays, when people see you there for back to school, you know, when people see you there, out there just to say, hey, we're going to have a community cookout and we can pray for you, or we have a clothes giveaway, and people see you, then they come forth. they come forth to volunteer. They come forth to, say, hey, what can I do? What can I do to help? Or I know now that you're here to help me. So, and again, I think that's how you start to build your community back, that camaraderie, that family feeling.
And we definitely have to put some work in the building,
Absolutely.
And it doesn't, and it shouldn't take a destruction or like a tsunami or any of these disasters. These things to pull a community together, and it definitely shouldn't take a shooting. I'm sick of people coming together because we're tired of someone dying.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, someone already died for us. That should have brought us together anyway. And that didn't do it. So more people dying after that I don't know if that's going to be the answer.
Well, no. That's not the answer. But yeah.
So with you, in the role you're in the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the steps or the things you run into that's you would say that there's a hurdle? I think we all go through hurdles, but what's a hurdle? Give us a hurdle and tell us how you're fixing it.
So, some of the hurdles that we run into, right now we're kind of focusing on getting our name and our brand out there. Some of the hurdles that we run into, of course, are organizations, as my mother spoke about, or even individuals where you say, hey, this is the project that we want to do. And even with people we know, unfortunately this has happened, I don't want any names, but this is the project we want to do, and we're all excited, and it's like, well, we're doing this over here, so maybe you can postpone what you're doing. We've been asked to postpone, like, even our missions trip because another group we know wanted to do something else. So sometimes you just run into hurdles with people, I guess, not taking things seriously or not understanding your vision and your mission, and knowing that, as my mother said, this is not another run-of-the-mill nonprofit. Like, when we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And that's how I was raised. My father always said, like, a man only had his word. So I learned early, when you said something, that's what you need to do.
Maybe it's just ego. And ego, we know, is an acronym for Edge God Out. But maybe it's just ego where they just don't want you to do.
It potentially could be ego. But
And that would hurt to think about it like that.
And it would, but at the end of the day, I think when we come across that, we have a good network. So we bounce off of each other a lot. We vent to each other a lot when we have things come up. And we always refocus on, we are doing this because we care about the people that God put on this earth. That's the bottom line. So even if my ego, gets bruised by someone else's comments, it's not about me. It's about the greater good for everyone else. And so even then, you put yourself aside and you check yourself and you move on, because it's not about you. In the end, it's not about you. And so when you refocus and think, number one, I'm just so amazed that God wants to use me, because I know me, to do anything great, for someone else. And so when you just refocus and say, hey, this is so above even us and the things that he has opened, the doors he's opened for us, it refocuses you from those ego and egotistical things, and you just say, okay, let's move on. So.
Before I close out on Bridges Live, I just want to say thank you, Miss Denise, Miss Jennifer, for coming, and I'd like to thank all my sponsors for supporting the show, and all the people who listen to the show. You can always reach me here at drpaulwdyer@gmail.com, and always catch me on drpaulholisticsciences.com. But more importantly, before we close out, I want to close off with you, and you have a call out to where are we going next? Because this is a we and not a you or us. This is what we can do. So I want you to close us out.
So I will tell you this. The Well Foundation, we are on Facebook currently. Well Foundation ASOL. Our motto is a source of life. So that's what the ASOL stands for. Our email is also the Well Foundation of Maryland Inc. the Well Foundation Inc. of Maryland @gmail.com. And then our phone number is 410-542-0439. We just want people to reach out. If you feel like you have a gift or calling to help Baltimore or even the world, if you are good at any trade skills, if you want to make any school supply donations or even donations of clothing, we're here to help our community. So if you just feel a need and a pull and a passion to help Baltimore, that's all we want. We can find something for you to do. We just want people that are willing and in some way able to help our city, because it's really going to take a grassroots effort. It's going to take all of us pulling together as citizens of Baltimore to make Baltimore better. It's not going to come from the top. It's going to come from the bottom. And so that's the thing that I'm employing everybody to do, is just come forward and don't think that what you can contribute is small, because it's really going to take all of us to do this.
Miss Denise, before we leave, anything?
No, I'm again, just what Jennifer said. We're a Christian-based organization, but we're just not for Christians only. Everybody's invited, because it takes a village, and we want to build our communities and back into having that village feel. So back to family and love. So
praise God. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Paul. This is Bridges Live. Thank you so much.